Hey everybody, this is Ray Hanania with the Regional News and Ray Hanania on politics. And I don't know, the weirdest thing is happening in Orland Park. And as everybody knows, there are a lot of weird things have been happening in Orland Park as a result of the inconsistent policies of Mayor Keith Pekau and his personal anger at anybody who tries to hold him accountable or question what he does. All of a sudden, we've heard something about annexing properties. They're going to grab these homes that are near Silver Lakes, and they're just going to shove them into the village. They're unincorporated. When you go on the village website, you can't find any information on it. You do a search, and I'll show you the image of the results when I've done searches. You can't get any information, and yet it impacts so many families and lives. What they're trying to do. So at the board meeting this past week, there were a number of residents who live in these unincorporated areas that have been targeted by Pekau for annexation. And one of them is Vince Kelly. He's been a resident of that Orland Township unincorporated area for the past 11 years. Vince is with me. Vince Kelly, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure, Ray. Thank you.
So I watched your presentation at the board. I thought you were very clear. You were very precise. And I noticed that Pekau is kind of restrained a little bit because he's taken a beating over the way he's abused residents and taxpayers at past board meetings. But first of all, explain like nobody knows what's going on, because honestly, 90% of the people in Orland Park don't know what's going on. Tell us what's happening with what the village wants to do to the home where you live and the homes around you that are in an unincorporated area near Silver Lakes.
Certainly. A bit of short context to make it even to bring this home a little bit.
Sure.
My first encounters with Keith were actually almost pleasant.
Me too.
I went.
Me too.
When I first met him was at his Meet the Mayor events, and I was commending him about his decision to not buy Silver Lake Golf Course, to cut the mayor's. And there's a number of things that he did that I agreed with,
Right. Me
and
too.
that I was very complimentary of. And the first time I saw his true face is 2021, when my son was out of school for a year with COVID. They were out of classrooms for a year, and he has asthma, so it's just that much more scary. And when they went back to school, they had the mask mandate. And as you know, Keith ran and tried to push that to remove the mask mandate for kids in schools.
Right.
And I wrote him an email saying, listen, I know it's not ideal, and I'm not crazy about it either. However, the inconvenience of masks to me outweigh, the risk of kids having to come out of classrooms again, because my son suffered terribly mentally from that. And I sent him a link regarding a peer-reviewed study regarding mask in close proximity. And he responded with something to the regards as, listen, dumbass, if you want to talk to me, I'm easy to find. Come get me.
Oh, God. So this is a guy that you supported.
He's friendly. Yes. Yeah. He's friendly until you disagree with him.
Exactly.
He lacks the respect or spine to talk to critics. As soon as somebody says anything that's less than ideal on his Facebook, he blocks them.
Yeah.
He cannot. And when I went to the first meeting regarding this, the one you saw was the second one. The first one I went to, I was pretty mild and pretty straightforward, but I kept my cool composure. He never looked me in the eye once. He didn't look any of my neighbors in the eye.
That's why you said, "Look me in the eye." Right.
Yes, I was right, because the rest of the board looked me in the eye while I was talking. And this time I saw, and he was looking down at his notes again. And I told them, I'm addressing the board, not Keith, because the board has the decency and respect to look me in the eye.
This is
and afterwards. It's funny because afterwards it was funny. He mentioned, he's like, well, a pro tip, next time you might want to try some respect. And he doesn't understand that a title does not grant you. It doesn't grant you respect. You still have to give respect to get respect. He thinks some kind of title makes that you could treat people whatever you want, and they still have to come kiss your ring. And it's ridiculous.
The way he acts is
I don't stand for it.
The way he acts is his memorandum of understanding. So as long as you yes him and say, hey, good job. Like when he first ran, I wrote columns supporting him. I said, listen, I didn't like what the former mayor wanted to do. Maybe you'll do a better job. Good luck. Everything was great until he says to me, I need you to beat people up. And I go, what? I don't know. I did a Joe Pesci. Like, I don't know if you understand what I do. I write columns and they're factual. You want to give me some information? Give me some information. No, you need to beat these people up. These people are criticizing me. And if you don't criticize them, then you're not my friend. I said, oh, okay.
Okay.
Have a good
Not
day,
your friend
Mayor.
then.
And that was
Right.
it.
Well,
And then every time I ask a question, he gets upset and he attacks me at board meetings, in his e-newsletter, all this stuff. And I'm sitting there like going, what is the issue? And the issue is nobody has a right to question what he does. And that's what it looks like you and other homeowners came up against, trying to find out what are you doing and why are you
well,
doing
and,
it?
and it was sneaky and it was terrible. And I'll tell you one thing too, is that we
Yes.
found through the Freedom of Information Act, we found an internal memo regarding the annexations. And our area was actually by his own team found as an area that was not desirable for annexations because we have very rough terrain. We have a lot of trees. We have a lot of grades that go up and down. So for sewer lines and everything else, and anything they have to do to bring us into the suburb, it'd be extremely expensive and very difficult. So his own team that he hired to see which areas would be desirable deemed my area undesirable. And they said, if you happen to do it anyway, it should be done voluntarily, not
Right.
involuntarily.
Right.
Yet Keith ignored his own team and decided to do it involuntarily and to do it sneaky because he sent out a few certified mails here and there. And lucky for us, I'm the one of them that got one. And I knew better. I knew that this would not be well known. So I went out to every home in the neighborhood and I placed a flyer in there telling me what was going on.
You did
and
a better
right
job
away,
than the
I
village.
got a bunch of calls. Yeah.
You did a better job in the village because one of the
Okay.
biggest complaints is this is a village that we pay a fortune to. I pay like $6,000-7,000 a year in taxes to pay for their jobs. And they couldn't deliver one letter in 2022.
No.
In
Oh, and it cracks me up
2023.
because his argument of that we use Orland Park resources is hysterical. Because the 1 week he said that the Orland Park police, if they have to come in guns a-blazing. And I said, when was the last time the Orland Park police had to go in guns a-blazing anywhere?
Gosh,
if the Orland Park had to go in guns a-blazing, I wouldn't be anywhere.
Fear-mongering.
Cook County police are on my block every week. They hang out there and wait for something. It's ridiculous. And plowing the roads. I mean, every village plows the roads so everybody can get anywhere. The parks.
Yes.
I use parks all over the country. I never had a mayor come up and say, "Are you a taxpaying resident of this?
Where's your ID?
Park?"
Yeah.
Where's that? Yeah. I mean, papers, please.
It's
great.
He's a bully and he makes up stuff because everything he said at the board meeting, I'm thinking, okay, why do you want to do it? And his explanation was, well, I heard Oak Forest, or he would call Oak Forest Oak Lawn a couple times, like Bidenitis or Palos want to take it.
Yeah.
And
all
the fact is,
they couldn't legally do it.
Not only can they not do it, they've never shown an interest in doing it. The officials there say they have no interest in doing it. So this sounds like a ruse on his part. Like he's trying to throw something. Yes, it's fear mongering.
They couldn't. Think about if they did do it. Think about how they'd have to send a good section of their police and fire all the way over to our area, miles away from their own.
Right.
How much it would cost them to monitor our area from their area.
How
ridiculously the logistics would play against it. It makes zero sense whatsoever.
If they did do it, they'd probably get the letters delivered better than the village of Orland Park did to the residents of your area.
That's a low bar, Ray. That's a low bar.
Step back just a little bit and describe the area for the people who are watching this.
Sure.
What part of Orland Park are we talking about?
Between 151st and 143rd, east of 82nd Avenue.
Okay. East of 82nd
right across from Silver
Avenue.
Lake Golf Course.
And is it
it's a
big?
beautiful it's a beautiful rural area that has mostly acre lots, wooded. And one of the reasons that many of us move there is because it's rural.
Right.
And we don't want street lights.
Right.
We don't want curbs. We don't want sidewalks. All these amenities that he's pushing, we don't want.
Right.
We don't want to pay higher taxes for things we don't want.
Right.
The board afterwards was saying, "Oh, we're willing to work with you and come to a mutual." I mean, the only mutual decision we want is for you to leave.
Right. Yeah.
We don't want anything to do with them. We're happy the way we are. And there is nothing they could say that makes us want to be part of Orland Park, especially after they just missed 2 audits for the first time in their 138-year history and then lied about it.
Yes.
I'm quite convinced that Orland Park is losing money through the nose, and Keith doesn't want anybody to know about it until after the election.
I'm really proud that I broke that story about 3 months ago, that they failed to file the audits last year and the year before. And when I called up Susanna Mendoza and her staff, they said, well, we're looking into this. We may take some action. I said, what do you mean you may take some action? This is the second year in a row. He hasn't filed an audit. We have no idea how he's spending our money or what the financial situation is of Orland Park. And my property taxes are going up, and nobody's doing anything about it. So they said,
People
no,
that
no, we're
hide
going to
don't
do
hide.
something. But
People that have nothing to hide don't hide.
exactly. My theory is that Orland Park is in severe debt, because
Absolutely.
that's what an audit shows. Are you in
Yep.
debt, or are you in financial stability? So
I
not
promise.
showing it, he's trying to hold it off until after the election, which is in
Yep.
the spring. That's what he's trying to do. So going back to the property, there's several names too we hear that's a little confusing. It's Silver Lake Dells or Silver Lake Drive. Are those
Well,
the
Silver Lake Drive is a street in Silver Lake Dells.
okay?
So there's a number of streets in
Is
there. Silver Lake Dells is one of the areas. And like I said, it's an old unincorporated area. So there's a number of names they could go by. That's the area in
yeah, it's
between
been
143rd and 151st, east of 82nd Avenue.
in your area. Does your area have a name at all, or no? Where
Yeah,
you live?
not that I know. I mean, I've never been aware. I've lived there for 11 years. I've never heard it. It very well may have on some map somewhere, but it's
Got it.
nothing that I've.
Yeah, because these words, I've lived here 35, years. I've never heard any of these names. I knew there was an unincorporated area over there. Everybody was happy. Nobody's complained. There's never been a problem. He
Nope.
said that someone mentioned that they did a survey of the residents, and 75% of the residents
Yeah,
signed a
which is
petition saying they didn't want to do this. And
well, it's just
go ahead.
hysterical because first of all, if anybody did surveys of our land, they were trespassing
Okay.
because nobody okayed that. In fact, everybody on my block said that they never ever saw anybody surveying our land. In
Right.
fact, my neighbor across the street said that the acreage on his lot alone was severely underestimated.
Oh, right.
I mean,
Yeah.
like a fraction of it.
He
So that's no
spoke at the
mistake.
board meeting.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to keep it under the 60 acres so we could take it involuntarily because the man who clutched his pearls when the governor was trying to take away our freedoms
Right.
for wearing masks, all of a sudden doesn't have any problem with taking our homes away and forcing them into his town, and thinks that's not an infringement on our freedom and wants to do it involuntarily without our say. And sneaky. It's ridiculous hypocrisy.
You covered a lot of good points there that I want to slow down on because they're so important. The one point
Sure.
is that there's a certain limit to the amount of property or whatever. So they
Right.
miscalculated one guy's property to make it less than what it was.
I'm
So
sure
they could,
I'm sure it's more than one. It's
yeah,
just the
and
one that I
right.
know
So
of.
it would fit in that box
Right.
that
Right.
allows
And
them in their mind to do whatever they want to do.
well, not to mention his lawyers, which by the way are one of his top 5 contributors, his top 5
course.
campaigns, of which many of which Ozinga's another one.
Right.
So should we be annexed and we need this work? Guess who's going to benefit from it?
Yeah.
Many of his top donors
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that all have village contracts.
Yeah, that
The
Ozinga
classic
name is a
pay to
bad
play.
name. That Ozinga
The-
name is a bad name. His
the-
chief of staff was charged and accused of all kinds of ugly sexting during a political campaign. And no chief of staff does that without the boss knowing about it. And then he decided to step down 2 months before it was disclosed to kind of avoid any backlash. But so there's this confusion by the village of the size of the properties. But then there was also your point, which I thought, and I want you to make it real clear because it was so good. It was the beginning of your statement. You pointed out how Pekau spoke out forcefully against the governor, saying there's a mask mandate during COVID. You cannot force us to do anything. We're independent people. We're human beings. We have rights. And then he turns around and he forces you, or tries to force you to do the same thing. It was just that
Correct.
was the best
And
point I heard.
he had a choice to do it voluntarily. In fact, his own team that he hired to investigate this suggested if they do it at all, which they shouldn't, the only way they should go about it is voluntarily.
Right.
And he chose to do it involuntarily without our input, without our say. That is the opposite of freedom. That is government infringement at its worst.
Yeah. And what's the attitude of most of the homeowners? Somebody said they were doing like a petition drive.
They're furious. We have a petition of hundreds of people. We have overwhelming support against it.
Wow.
Overwhelming.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, it's on all sides of the aisle. It's left, middle, it's left, right, and in between. I mean, I'm very firmly in the middle, and I know neighbors on both sides of the aisle, and all were present at that meeting, and all are in agreement they don't want this.
Right.
It's nothing to do. This has nothing to do with party politics. This isn't partisan. This is
Right.
about our homes. This is
Right.
where we live. We
I,
purchased our homes here for a reason. We don't want to pay outrageous Orland Park taxes. We
right.
don't want to be governed by a shady board that
Right.
lies about
Right.
their actions. We don't
They
want it
sent
to
you
be ruled like
letters. We
that
gave you
does things
letters. You didn't
voluntary.
get it.
Yeah, we gave us
We gave you letters and you didn't get it. That's not our fault. We're the village.
yeah, right.
We get paid to not get you a letter that you're
Right.
supposed
I
to
mean,
get.
you would think they'd be
Right.
when it concerns your home, when it concerns your taxes and being taken into a new suburb, you would think they want to make sure that you know about it.
Right.
Quite the opposite. They went about it very lackadaisically to make sure that it was quiet as possible. Unfortunately for him, I'm one of the few that got the letters and made sure
Good.
it wasn't quiet.
Good. Because you're right. It was. They were trying to keep it quiet. Katsenes and them were trying to, and Milani were trying to not let anybody know what was going on because they were just going to run it through before you even knew what hit you. So I think you guys were lucky. Not everybody is that lucky to see this coming before it actually happens. It sounds like he's now going to postpone it. First of all, he's using the excuse of the memorandum of understanding. Oh, he asked his village manager, we got it out. He goes, well, I don't know. I think so. You think so? A memorandum of understanding? You think so? I'm going, what kind of lawyers do you have in the
One's on his
village
payroll.
that you think so? Yeah, the ones that are donating to him.
Yeah.
But the status sounds like they're going to push it off until everything quiets down, maybe do it
And then
after the
try it
election
again.
and try it again.
Yeah, no, we're taking measures right now to make sure it cannot happen again.
Okay.
And even if he did try to force it through, we have enough people behind us to do what's called a disconnect. If we get a majority of our residents to sign off that we're not in agreement with this, we simply disconnect from it. And the board needs to know that because they could put a lot of money and resources into this for no reason at all. Because if we get enough people, which we already have, we have the support and then some. Right. We already have found that we have way more support than we need for a disconnect. So if he wants to try, I'd like to see him. In fact, it would be actually kind of fun because I haven't seen this kind of failure from him since he ran for Congress.
Right. That's true. And what's interesting and what the rest of the residents, I know some residents are, who are watching this or who read the column this week when I write it for the regional, they're going to say, what does this have to do with me? And I'm going to say, well, this is how he treats people. And this is how he treats you. And when you need something from government, you're going to run into the same exact thing. And it only becomes important when you run into it. No, what's happening to you is important to everybody who lives in Orland Park. They need to see what they're doing to you.
My father had a saying. He says, pay attention to what people do. They will show you who they are.
Exactly.
And this is never more true than this. He is showing you who he is. And another, it's like kind of, it reminds me of if somebody is nice to you, but not the waiter, they're not a nice person. So pay attention to what he's doing when he doesn't care. When he doesn't care, when he doesn't think that you're a benefit to him, if he thinks you can't do anything to impact him, he will treat you like dirt. And if he'll do that to one person, he'll do that to anybody at his convenience. His actions with this show who he is. He's government overreach at its worst, pay to play, corruption at its finest.
Yeah, Katsenes is sneaky. So my guess is that they've told him, let's let it drop temporarily. You notice that they moved to pass it and then said, let's hold off until some future date when the board decides to bring it up.
When I went to hand in my page to speak the second time, it was one of the board staff members by the board, and he goes, "Oh no, you don't have to worry about this anymore. We tabled this." And I said, "I'm still concerned about it, and I'm still speaking."
We tabled it, meaning we tabled it until you guys forget about it, or you're busy with graduation.
This is not going away.
Yeah, no, it's not going away.
No, and we're not letting this fall through the cracks.
Do me a favor, make sure to let me know when this comes up again, because honestly, this is the first time I've heard of this. And, and I'm a writer and a journalist in this area. And if I haven't heard about it, other than this board meeting, probably 90% of the people have no idea what's going on. He should not be allowed to do that to you, because what he does to you, he does to us. Same exact thing. So please let me know if anything happens with this so I can let everybody know.
I'd be happy to, Ray, please.
All right. Any other
possible?
Any other final thoughts or anything that we missed that You know, the question of, did anybody ever figure out why he wants to do it? What?
Well, that's the thing, is that there is no real reason why, because when you run the numbers, it wouldn't profit anybody in Orland Park. It would cost more to bring us up to code of the forgive my lack of vernacular for
Right.
zoning, but up to code for those village than they
Right.
would make in property taxes in
Huh.
decades. So it makes zero sense to anybody. Nobody asked for it. I mean, honestly, I think he's trying to get lost in the chaos. I think that all his books and how bad they are, the more
Yeah.
things he has going on, the easier it is to hide how bad his books are.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
I think
I
you're
don't,
right.
I can't say for any reason. I have no knowledge of this. My personal opinion is the
Right.
more things he gets his hand into, the more chaos is around him, the easier he could hide how badly he's messing up finances in Orland Park.
It could be something as simple as somebody said, hey, why don't we annex this property? We could then throw those property taxes into our numbers to make it look like we're not losing money.
Right.
And it is a
Who
shell game.
knows?
It's really sad. All right.
But there is no reason. Like I said at the meeting, I said one of the few things it does is it strokes Keith's ego. That's it. He doesn't. Another thing is, he's so he has such a gripe with Cook County. I don't think
Yeah.
he likes that Cook County has control of areas adjacent to
Right.
Orland Park. So I
Right.
think it's also a power trip.
There's
I
got to
think
be
he doesn't like Cook
something that
County. He
we
wants a
don't
power trip.
know that he hasn't
Right.
told the public
Right.
that bugs him. Maybe somebody from
Right.
the county treated him badly and he goes, I'm going to get you or something. It's like
Yep.
always something has nothing to do with your
He's
interests.
petty.
Yeah, he is
He's very petty.
Vince Kelly, my guest, a resident in, I guess they call it the Silver Lakes
Well,
Dells area.
Orland Park Township. Orland
Park Township, unincorporated, a resident there with a bunch of other residents. The mayor of Orland Park and the board want to try to take over that property and incorporate it into Orland Park without even asking. They just want to do it. But fortunately, the village residents in that, I'm sorry, the township residents in that unincorporated area, including Vince Kelly, stood up, went to the board, said, no, we're not going to allow you to do this. Informed all of the homeowners there, and now the majority of homeowners in that area do not want the mayor to do this. And I don't think he expected that kind of resistance. So congratulations. That's a victory.
Thank you very much, Ray. I appreciate you. And thanks for having me on.
All right. We'll talk later.
Take care.